The Three-Eyed Tribe is perhaps the most valuable race within the One Piece universe. Yet so far in the story, we've only met one of them, and she's mixed, she's half Big Mom. Well, in Onigashima right now, we could be getting some important hints. But first I want to thank the sponsor for this video, the Anime Collective. The Anime Collective combines anime and streetwear to give you the perfect urban style you're looking for. They offer high quality hoodies, t-shirts, and sweaters themed around some of your favorite anime series. Series such as One Piece, Attack on Titan, Hunter x Hunter, and many more. Their merchandise comes in all sizes and they provide shipping worldwide. If you want someone else's word for it, you can look at the many reviews from happy customers. So if you're looking to add some dope anime merch to your collection, definitely go check out the Anime Collective. By using the link in the description, you could get 10% off on your first purchase, or you could use my code KING. See, chapter 978 was really the first chapter the raid on Onigashima officially started. That was the chapter we actually got a full shot of Onigashima and what it looked like, and by the end of that chapter, we were introduced to the Tobi-Roppo. Now, all of them have pretty unique designs and personalities, so they were all pretty interesting. But even within them, some of them stood out. You had Ulti because of her crazy, quirky personality, but also Who's Who. See, Who's Who was the person that brought up the question of, hey, if Queen were to die, who do you think would replace him? So right away, Who's Who grabbed our attention as this person that was really trying to advance himself. And out of all the Tobi-Roppo members, there were a lot of mystery surrounding him. First off, he's wearing this helmet mask thing that's covering half his face, so we don't know what he really looks like. Second of all, his name is literally Who's Who, which yes, it's a board game that is inspired by, but Oda is definitely subtly dropping hints that we should try to guess what his identity is. So clearly there's a lot of mystery surrounding him, and when that happens, you have to start to look for hints. And the biggest hint slash most interesting thing about him is that he has an eye tattoo on his chest. Now at first that kind of just seemed like an interesting design choice, but we continuously see this design throughout Onigashima. As the raid continues, we see all these characters with the eye symbol on them. A lot of them are wearing this sheet of cloth or paper with this eye symbol on them, and some of them even have the eye symbol just straight up on their forehead. Now that one is the most interesting because that's where the third eye would be. Now out of all of these people that have the eye mask on, the most prominent one is Bao Huang. Bao Huang is Kaido's personal assistant, and she kind of overlooks everything, and what's unique about her is that she seemingly has this very unique power. Her powers get put into action as the raid continues, and we find out she's actually like able to oversee all of Onigashima. The first thing she really does is find where Momonosuke is for King, and although we didn't quite see how her power worked then, we did see this cat with the eye mask on. So at that point you could almost kind of speculate that she was probably seeing through that cat. And in the most recent chapter we get a full breakdown on just how Bao Huang's powers work, because in 1004 she ended up finding the scabbards, but not only that, we also get a first person perspective of just how she found them. You can clearly see she is seeing out of this eye symbol, and then from that we zoom back out and we see this eye mask on this rat that is above the scabbard. So based off of this, it seems like Bao Huang has this unique power where she can see through that eye mask that's on any person or thing. Now what's interesting is that we actually know that Bao Huang is a Squirrel Smile Devil Fruit user, which means this is either another ability she has or it's because of something else she has. Now originally I kind of believed that the eye masks themselves were the true power, and that was because of how Bao Huang delivered the message. She delivered the message through another person that was wearing the same eye mask, and then that person passed on the message to King, who then delivered all these orders. So because of that, I thought maybe the eye mask itself was the power and allowed whoever was wearing it to see other people that were wearing the same exact mask. But what Black Maria told Sanji kind of goes against that, because she specifically told him to call for Robin through this person that is wearing the eye mask, and she said by speaking to this girl, his voice will essentially be heard throughout the entire castle. Now at first I really didn't think that she meant like Sanji's voice would essentially just be like boom throughout the entire voice for everybody to hear, but in order for it to really be effective, it would have to be that way, because say we're going off the idea that each of them see through the mask, then if Sanji called for Robin, the person would just be able to spread the message through other people. That wouldn't really help get Robin in any way. So based off of this, it seems like another power of these people is to project voices. So how exactly does Bao Huang and these other people have this innate ability? Well, I think the obvious answers on the mask itself, it's the eye, the three-eyed tribe. And the person this all connects back to is the guy with the eye on his chest, Who's Who. Obviously, like we talked about, Who's Who is a person Oda keeps us wanting to guess. He's incredibly mysterious and has gotten a lot of focus as well. I also think we might have seen him back in Punk Hazard. This man with a fur coat and some horns kinda looks like him. Maybe it's not him, it's not that important if it's not, but it could have been another way Oda was highlighting Who's Who. But anyways, throughout the raid, we find even more information out about Who's Who. We meet his entire crew who are all dressed like cats, but when we met his crew, there was another person with that eye mask on. So once again, are those people connected to Who's Who, and could they be part of his crew as well? I think it would make sense considering he has that eye tattooed on his chest. It could be something like those people were originally Who's Who's crew, and then he got all these cat smile users once he joined Kaido's crew. But yeah, after we meet Who's Who's crew, we find out he might have a little beef and connection with Queen. He sees Queen talking about wanting to kill somebody, and he says, I want to do that too, so adding more to this mystery of what his goal is. And at that point, we thought those two had beef and were gonna go after each other, but then Oda just flips the script. Turns out at the end of the day, these two are working together and they both expose X Drake. Now this is interesting because Who's Who so far, it doesn't seem like he gives a damn about the Beast Pirates. King said specifically, Sasaki, Who's Who, you guys would not listen to me because you were former captains. So why did he care so much about somebody like X Drake, and why did he work with Queen to capture him? Like for Queen, it makes sense. He's been with the crew for over 20 years. He's very loyal to Kaido. But Who's Who just doesn't feel like that type of character in the crew. So what other motivations does he have? Well, it could be something to do with the fact that X Drake is Sword. Now I'll probably do a full breakdown on Sword in another video soon, but overall I do feel like Sword is a unit going up against the world government. First off, when X Drake noticed the CP0 in Wano, he was kind of worried and spooked. Second of all, CP0 is called Aegis Zero, and Aegis is a famous shield. So by making that connection, you have Sword against Shield. Now I could be wrong on this and Sword could just be a division of the Marines, but I do genuinely believe Sword is likely against the world government, and if that's the case, Who's Who might be working for the world government. And that could be the reason he was so motivated to pick out X Drake. And there's a couple of different things that make me believe Who's Who could be working for the world government. First off, it feels weird that the world government doesn't have somebody undercover in a Yonko crew. Like think about it, CP0, CP9, these guys are trained to go on stealth missions and go undercover. CP9 worked with Galila for like years upon end just to try to find the blueprints to Pluton. CP0 is spread out everywhere. Stussy was managing the underworld. They even had somebody within Big News Morgans' company. So obviously the world government likes to spread out its resources and get like up to date with everything. It would be kind of weird if they didn't have somebody try to infiltrate a Yonko crew to make sure they knew the movements of those crews. Now the counter argument here is that's the purpose of Sword and that's what X Drake is doing, but at the same time the Marines and the CP agents kind of operate separately. The world government likes to act on their own as well, and I feel like they will want some people undercover outside of like Akainu's control, and that's where Who's Who comes in as this candidate. Not only was he the one to pick out X Drake, where by the way he said we had people looking after you, and for thinking all these people with eye masks work with Who's Who, that could be the way they found out. But another thing that was very interesting was his conversation with Jinbei. He specifically referred to Jinbei as a warlord because that's what Jinbei was the last time they met. Again, this is Oda kind of teasing the mystery behind Who's Who, but as we think about it, nobody else really fits the profile of Who's Who. You got people saying like Jin and stuff, but so far there's no realistic answer. So maybe that conversation with Jinbei wasn't really a hint about a previous character, but instead Oda could be hinting that Who's Who knew Jinbei when Jinbei was in a government position as a warlord. So to kind of tie it all together, I think Who's Who and certain members of his crew went undercover for the world government in Kaido's crew. And to tie it back to the Three-Eyed Tribe, I think Who's Who is a Three-Eyed Tribe member. Obviously the first connection I'm making is the eye symbol and how much we've seen it, but we also have to look at the Three-Eyed Tribe as a whole. Why have we heard so little about them? Well, I think the obvious answer is that the world government pretty much got rid of them. What makes the Three-Eyed Tribe so valuable is that they can unlock this ability that is very similar to the voice of all things. And if you think about it, it kind of ties back to like the resonating your voice throughout the castle thing. I think Sawyer might have talked about this in a recent chapter review as well. But yeah, that's the danger of the three-eyed tribe. They can use that third eye to, I guess, see voices. And because of that, they'll be able to kind of understand some of the poneglyphs. Now, it's important to note, if this ability is like the voice of all things, they shouldn't be able to just flat out read the poneglyphs. But they should be able to kind of figure some things out of what each poneglyph is trying to say. A good example is what Roger was able to do with the poneglyphs. Although he wasn't able to read it and still needed Odin, he still was able to figure out the road poneglyphs were a map. When he saw the poneglyph in Skypiea, he could kind of figure out it was referring to some sort of great power. So the third eye and the voice of all things feel like they could kind of like see and feel like what the people were trying to convey. But either way, this is still a very dangerous ability that the world government will not tolerate. So what do? The obvious answer is just to wipe them all out. And that's probably what they did and why we haven't seen them throughout the story. A very good example of this was that price list of different races at the auction house on Sabaody. We saw pretty much every race in there: giants, fishmen, minks, but there was no three-eyed tribe member listed. So in my opinion, the world government, obviously terrified of this power, wiped out the three-eyed tribe. But obviously they're not completely extinct either, because pudding exists. So I do think some of them maybe escaped and the world government might have kept some around. Most likely some of the younger children they could kind of brainwash. So that way they could use this incredibly powerful ability and use it to their advantage. So let's say Who's Who and some three-eyed tribe members get sent undercover as a pirate crew. They then infiltrate Kaido's gang, get close to him, climb the ladder, and now they essentially have eyes everywhere on Kaido's crew, which could have allowed them to catch somebody like X Drake who's working with Sword. A couple of other interesting things that could be tied in is, first off, the girl that was wearing the eye mask with the CP0. Some people thought that she was there to kind of make sure they weren't doing anything, but felt like both parties were pretty comfortable with each other. Like she was the one to give them all the info on what was happening on both sides. Meanwhile, the CP0 guy was talking pretty casually, so it does feel like those two are on friendly terms. Another thing I'm wondering is, because of Bao Huang's powers, how come she didn't notice any of the invaders? There's a moment specifically where Kaido asked when Big Mom was coming and Bao Huang was like, oh, she's actually coming right now, but I forgot to mention, sorry about that. So if you think about it, not only did she forget to mention that, but she also must have seen Nami and Carrot and Sanji and possibly Kinemon and some of the other samurai, and she didn't mention any of that. And like, sure, maybe her range doesn't extend that wide, but like when the Scabbers were busting through the back about to sneak attack Kaido, did she not notice? I don't know, that seems a little sus to me. But yeah, overall I think this is a very fun theory that perhaps Who's Who is a three-eyed tribe member, the race that was persecuted by the world government, but now he works for them undercover in Kaido's crew. I'm interested to hear what you guys think about this theory. Definitely let me know your thoughts below. But as always, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did enjoy, please hit that like button. To keep up with this channel, you gotta hit that subscribe button, hit the bell to get notified. Thank you to all my King Pirates Elite members on YouTube and Patreon for supporting the channel. Be sure to follow me on Twitter and Twitch at I'mDZach. I just recently changed the username to both of those, so make sure you have the right one. But with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.